Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Pushing the Limits. Super excited to have you with me again today. I have uncovered another superstar for you guys. I think you're going to be absolutely fascinated by this gentleman and the work that he's done and the information that he's going to share with us today. So welcome to the show, Nir. You are over in Singapore.
That's right. Great to be with you, Lisa.
Oh, thanks for coming on. Now, Nir, I want to dive into your background because when I read all about you and what you've done, I was like, wow, yeah, that's pretty impressive. Can you give the listeners a bit of background who don't know you, where you came from and how you got into the stuff that you're doing now?
Sure thing. So I'm what you call a behavioral designer. So I help companies build the kind of products and services that build healthy habits in people's lives. So I taught for many years at the Stanford Graduate School of Business and later at the Hasso-Plattner Institute of Design in Stanford, where I taught courses on how to use the psychology of what we call behavioral design to build good habits in people's lives. So for example, getting people to make a habit out of exercise with a fitness app like Fitbod, or helping kids stay engaged in the classroom with an app like Kahoot. We can use the same psychology behind what makes Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and Slack so sticky to help people form good habits in their lives. So that was the subject of my first book called Hooked, How to Build Habit-Forming Products. And my second book, more recently, about 2 years ago, I released a book called Indistractable, where if Hooked is about how to build good habits, Indistractable is about how to break those bad habits that so oftentimes can lead us off track. So I wanted to take a deeper dive into the psychology of why do we do things against our better interests? Why do we get distracted? I think that becoming indistractable is truly the skill of the century, because what we find is that people generally know what to do, they just don't do it, right? We all basically know how to get in shape. We know how to have better relationships. We know how to be better at our job. We know how to save money. We just keep getting in our own way.
Yep.
And so I really wanted to get into this deeper psychology of why is that, which is the subject of my second book, Indistractable.
Wow. Well, let's start with the second book, because I think, that
Sure.
is a fascinating, because as someone who's coaches a lot of athletes and works in the company, and I'm definitely keen on understanding all the hooked stuff, because that's definitely fascinating as well. But let's start with the Indistractable. We live in a society where we are constantly bombarded, and it's going to get worse as virtual reality and augmented reality and things like come online and make everything even more addictive. Apparently our attention spans are down to 7 seconds or something ridiculous when we're scrolling around on social media networks. How do we fight against this? I myself know from my own behavior that I have shiny object syndrome, and from a business perspective, I'm very easily distracted or even taken off on some cool new technology or some cool new thing that my business partner is constantly trying to bring me back on track. So how do we do that? How do we stop, going on to social media and just ending up in down some rabbit hole that we never wanted to?
Yeah, so the best place to start is to understand what this word even means, distraction. It's so important to start with our definitions. Yes. So the best way to understand if you really know what the term means is to ask yourself, do you know what is the opposite of that term? What's the antonym? So if you ask most people what's the opposite of distraction, they'll tell you it's focus, right? I don't want to be distracted, I want to be focused. But that's not exactly right. That the opposite of distraction is not focus. If you look at the origin of the word, the opposite of distraction is traction.
Oh,
you'll notice that both traction and distraction end in the same 6 letters, ACTION. That spells action, reminding us that distraction is not something that happens to us, but rather it is an action we take.
Right.
So both traction and distraction come from the same Latin root, trahare, which means to pull. So traction, by definition, is any action that pulls you towards what you said you were going to do, things that you do with intent, things that move you closer to your values and help you become the kind of person you want to become. Those are acts of traction. The opposite of traction is distraction. Distraction is any action that pulls you further away from your goals, further away from your intent, further away from living out your values and being the kind of person you want to become. So this is not just semantics. This is really important, right? Because I would argue any action can be traction or distraction based on one word. And that one word is forethought. Okay. Forethought. Let me give you an example. So I want to show you how any action can be a distraction. So one of my biggest distractions that I didn't even realize was distracting me was that every morning I would get to work and I would sit down at my desk and I'd say, okay, I've got that big thing to do on my to-do list, that thing that I've been procrastinating on. Today is the day. I'm not going to delay. I have to do that thing that I've been putting off. I'm going to do it right now. Nothing's going to get in my way. No distraction. Right now, I'm going to get started. But first, let me check some email. Right?
Sounds like me.
Let me just scroll that Slack channel. Let me just do a couple of those things on my to-do list that are kind of easier to do just to get started, right? Just to get, the ball rolling here, because that's not distraction. That's a work-related task. I got to do email at some point today, right? I'm still being productive. And what I didn't realize is that is the most dangerous form of distraction. We talk about social media and video games and television being the source of distraction. If you look at the percentage of time that people waste doing things that are not what they intended to do, overwhelmingly, it is the things that they think are productive, but really aren't. Right?
Guilty.
Checking email a million times a day. Exactly. It's these things that trick us into prioritizing the urgent work and the easy work at the expense of the hard and important work that we have to do to move our lives and careers forward. So just because something is a work-related task doesn't mean it's not a distraction. In fact, that's the most dangerous form of distraction. So that's point number one. Anything can become a distraction if it's not what you plan to do. And conversely, anything can be traction. So I am not one of these chicken little tech critics that says, oh, social media, Facebook, Instagram, oh, they're melting your brain. They're addicting you. Rubbish. It is not true. It is not scientific. We need to stop using this disempowering language that, in fact, I think my conspiracy theory is that these companies want you to believe you're addicted. They want you to believe there's nothing you can do about it. Because you know what people do? It's called learned helplessness. When people think they're addicted, guess what they do? Nothing. They stop trying. What I want to do is to empower people to say, look, you want to play video games? You want to go on social media? You want to use YouTube? Awesome. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff, as long as you use it on your schedule and according to your values, not the tech companies. So there's nothing wrong with the tech. The tech is wonderful. I mean, look, you're in New Zealand. I'm in Singapore. People are listening all over the world with this amazing technology. We are so blessed. What are we complaining about? Oh, it's distracting me. I can't concentrate. My phone is so great. I want to use it all the time. Shut up. There's nothing wrong with this stuff. As long as we use it with intent, we are much more powerful than the tech companies are. So I want to liberate people from this mind prison that we've put ourselves in, thinking that we're powerless. We are not powerless. There's so much more we can do.
And this is coming from a behavioral designer who knows how to,
I wrote the book.
You wrote how
I know how these companies get you hooked. I literally wrote the book on how they do it. And I'll tell you, their techniques are good. They're good. They're not that good. Right? This is not mind control. This is not hijacking your brain.
You're not on cocaine and you're stuck.
Exactly. We're not injecting Instagram. We're not snorting Snapchat. We're not freebasing Facebook. Give me a break here. That's ridiculous. Unless we believe we are powerless. That's when we become powerless.
Amen. I just, and I've been guilty of propagating that, because you do hear about how addictive it is, and you do notice in your own behavior that you're, shall we say, not always doing what you set out to do. And so you're giving us the tools and the power back and saying, here is how you keep a control on things, because, we are at the mercy sometimes of our own neurotransmitters, and I'm as a athlete and as a coach, I'm like, motivation follows action and not the other way around. Okay. So if you don't feel like going for a run today, for an example out of my life, which happens quite often, I don't feel like it. I just take some little step of action and I create motivation from that little step, and invariably I end up doing my training. So
you bring up a really good point. Sorry to interrupt you, but there's a critical word you said that I think we should dive deeper into, which is the word you said was feeling, right? When you think about why don't we accomplish our goals? Okay, what's the number one reason people don't accomplish their goals? The number one reason people don't accomplish their goals in any aspect of life, whether it's relationship goals with, forming a tight bond with your spouse or your children, whether it's your career goals, whether it's your physical fitness goals, the number one reason people don't accomplish their goals, common sense, they quit. We stop. Yeah. Well, what's the number one reason we quit? Why don't we do what we say we're going to do? Because we don't feel like it.
Yes, and we're never going to
right?
feel
We say
like
it all the time. We don't actually pause to think about what does that mean exactly. So this is a really great point to talk about the two other parts of my Indistractable framework. So now you can kind of visualize, think of an arrow to the right, which represents traction. Think about an arrow to the left, which represents distraction. Now I want you to think about two arrows bisecting, pointing to the center of that number line that you just created vertically from the top and bottom. Those represent external triggers and internal triggers. External triggers, these are all the pings, the dings, the rings, anything in our outside environment that can lead us towards distraction. Now, that's what we tend to blame. Okay, we tend to blame, oh, I was concentrating, but then my phone rang, or I got some notification, or my boss interrupted me. We think about things in our outside environment leading to distraction. But studies find that is only 10% of the time that you get distracted. Are you distracted because of an external trigger? 10%. So it's part of the problem, but it's clearly not the real source. The real source is that 90% of the time that we get distracted, 90% of the time, is not because of an external trigger. It's because of what we call an internal trigger. What is an internal trigger? An internal trigger is an uncomfortable emotional state that we seek to escape. Boredom, loneliness, fatigue, stress, anxiety, uncertainty. Anytime we feel these uncomfortable emotions, we look to escape them, oftentimes with distraction. So if we don't understand this cardinal rule that time management requires pain management. Let me say it again. Wow. Time management requires pain management. That all of our distraction, our procrastination, anytime we don't do what we say we're going to do, it is because we have not learned how to deal with that discomfort in a healthy way that drives us towards traction, and we try and escape it with distraction. So whether it's too much booze, too much food, too much news, too much football, too much Facebook, it doesn't matter. We will always find distraction somewhere unless we know how to cope with discomfort in a healthy manner. So that's the first step to becoming indistractable, is mastering those internal triggers, or they will master you.
Wow, that is just mind-blowing there. I'm just like, whoa, this is just cool shit. This is really cool shit. Do you know the work of Stephen Kotler? He's at the Flow Collective, or the Flow Collective is the name of his company. And he's an expert and author around flow. And what he studied for the last 30 years, you'd love him, the dynamics of flow. What is it that makes somebody an elite athlete that can do triple spins on a skateboard, or a elite performer in some sort of way? What is it that they all have in common? And it's the releasing of these neurotransmitters in our brain, basically, to get us into this flow state. So, for example, if I sit here and I'm busy doing my really stressful work, and then I go over to my artwork, which sits next to me here, and I'm doing some art, I'm not going to be creative if I'm trying to force it. And I've just come from I need to go out into nature and, stare at the horizon for a little bit, have some time in fresh air and nature. This is my practice, if you like. Then I can come back and I may be able to tap into creativity because I'm starting to control my neurotransmitters and what's being emitted. Is that what you're talking about? Is that what, how do we manage this cocktail of chemicals that we've got going on in our brains, or lack of? Is that what you're alluding to?
Not really. I'm not a big fan of tossing around neurotransmitters. There's a stupid joke in the neuroscience community. It's not very funny, but I'll tell it anyway. Which is, what is the role of dopamine in the brain? The role of dopamine in the brain is to confuse neuroscientists. that people toss around these neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, all these neurotransmitters, and I think for the most part, they're full of shit.
Really? Wow.
Yes,
that's a big call.
Because it's a self-limiting belief when you say, oh, I'm unable to because I don't have enough of this neurotransmitter, or you see, I'm doing this because of the neurotransmitter. This is a very old belief going back thousands of years, going back to the idea of spirits controlling us in some way. And so the modern equivalent, the secular experience of angels and spirits and ghosts, is now neurotransmitters. And it's a very dangerous belief, because what we find is that when we have a certain model of how we should behave, that something is controlling us, we tend to conform to those beliefs, and we make it the case. We make it true. So when people say hocus pocus, like, I have a short attention span. I have an addictive personality. I'm a morning person. I'm a Sagittarius. Wait. Hold on. Turns out, these differences, there could be differences for sure. We know that there are, at least the only really validated personality tests are these big 5 personality traits. But the differences between folks when it comes to the level of performance is quite minor, right? That we tend to think of effect, but we don't consider effect size. Something can have an effect on your performance, but you have to consider also the effect size, right? So before you go say, oh, I have an addictive personality, I have a short attention span, I'm a this, I'm a that, first do the things I tell you to do, right? Like before you say, oh, there's some limiting thing here that's keeping me from accomplishing what I want to accomplish. And I hear this, by the way, for years now. Oh, you don't understand. My situation is special. I'm different. I need this. I need that. My brain is wired this way. Or first do what I say to do. Okay. That's going to get you 99% of the way there. Now, the small minor differences of, oh, I like to do this a little bit differently. Okay. That's on the margins. But by and large, what I did over the past 5 years was to delve into the psychology research around what really works, what helps people stay true to their goals, what helps them do what they say they're going to do. And these 4 tried and true strategies work for the vast majority of people if they actually do them before they start looking for excuses. I'll give you one very good example. So a few years ago, there was this idea in the psychology community that we called ego depletion. Ego depletion is this idea that you run out of willpower. And many people still believe this, that willpower is a depletable resource. And there was a researcher who actually did these studies and found, lo and behold, that people run out of willpower just like they would run out of gas in a gas tank or battery charge on your phone. They run out of willpower.
Yep.
And so people started using this, many of us still do, saying, you come home from a hard day of work and you say, I feel spent, quote unquote, right? I have no more willpower left. What a hard day. Give me that pint of ice cream. I'm going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, right? And what we do in the social sciences, when a study sounds too good to be true, we replicate the study, right? We do it again.
Yeah.
And what studies found, macro studies, so studies of studies, found that this idea of ego depletion is just not true. It does not exist. There is no such thing as running out of willpower, like someone would run out of gas in a gas tank, except in one group of people. That Carol Dweck, a wonderful researcher at Stanford, a wonderful book you probably read, Mindset, that she wrote, she found that in fact, one group of people really did experience ego depletion. They really did run out of willpower like someone would run out of charge on their phone. And those people, and only those people, what made them unique? It was only the people who believed that willpower was a limited resource. Those are the only people that exhibited ego depletion. That really
so again,
willpower.
Yeah. So again and again, you're bringing up the themes of not using things as excuses, and you're not helpless against the stuff that's in there, and that's what's. But do you feel? Do you also believe that dopamine, we'll take dopamine because we're talking about it, does not have an effect on the way you act? I mean, I study genetics, so. I know there's differences in
of course, definitely has an effect.
The way they're motivated or the way they act and so on. Yeah,
for sure, it has an effect. Absolutely. I mean, we know that when Parkinson's patients are on dopamine therapy, they are more likely to have addictive behaviors, and there's some things you have to be careful of. But this is typically cases of extremes, right?
Yep.
Really, exogenous factors, like really extremes. For the average person, it's irrelevant, right? It's really. So
you're talking about
it can have an effect. Yeah, but effect size is what matters. To what impact? It can be a drop in the ocean. Is a drop in the ocean adding water to the ocean? Yes, but it's imperceptible.
Right. So you're talking about, let's go for the low-hanging fruit stuff. Let's not worry about the stuff that's on the edges of, yes, there will be people who are outliers on this. Let's look at what can help the most of us control our lives better so that we can reach our goals. So what are the big the big things we can do?
I mean, I think in your industry, you see it a ton when it comes to athletes and trying to improve. When I go to the gym, I always see these guys standing in the corner comparing notes on the best kind of protein, right? What kind of creatine should we take? What kind of are you using this? Are you using that? at the end of the day, you got to do the workout, right?
Oh yeah.
That's going to make the biggest impact. It's not what kind of protein you're taking, right? Is it whey protein, egg protein? Come on, do the workout.
Yeah.
That's going to make the biggest difference. So, okay, what do we have to do here? So now we have this model in our heads: traction, distraction, internal, external, right? Now we know the 4 big parts of the Indistractable model. So now we work our way around these 4 steps, like the points on a compass. The first step is to master the internal triggers. You have got to have tools in your toolkit, arrows in your quiver, if you will, so that you know what you will do when you feel discomfort. And I'm sure you know this, right?
Yeah.
As an ultra endurance athlete, you have to have a plan in place to know what you will do when you experience the discomfort that is screaming at you.
Oh yeah.
To do something else. How important is that, right?
Huge. You don't do ultra
right.
endurance full stop if you can't overcome those. You
Exactly,
don't get very far.
And so this is where visualization comes into practice. Many people visualize incorrectly. Many people think that, oh, I'm going to make a vision board. I'm going to make a dream, and then the universe will bring it to me. Don't do that. That's a big mistake. We actually know, studies have found that when we envision the outcomes, it makes us less likely to go and do those things, because we actually do feel good from the visioning exercise.
We think we've done it.
Exactly. It makes us feel like we've done it. So when we think, oh, I really want to write that book, or I really want financial independence, or I really want that beach body, and thinking about it, envisioning it, actually makes us less likely to act. Rather than the right kind of visioning is to envision what you will do when you are tempted to go off track. So let's say you're trying to lose weight. Don't envision how great you're going to look on the beach with your shirt off. Instead, what I want you to do is to envision, what will you do when you're offered that piece of chocolate cake on your diet? That's the right way to vision something, is to practice what you will do when you are tempted by something that will lead you off track.
Total agree.
So that's just one. Yeah. There are many, many, many techniques. There's that I cite from Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. My book is full of 30 pages of peer-reviewed studies. I don't like these books where people just make up stuff. I actually combed the psychology literature for 5 years to show, okay, here's what the studies find is effective. So there's many different techniques. So that's step number 1, master the internal triggers. Have a plan in place to know what you will do when you experience the discomfort that makes you want to not do the thing you said you were going to do. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is make time for traction. Make time for traction. Again, traction are these actions that we take that move us closer to what we said we were going to do.
Yep.
So one of the big mistakes that people make is that they do not plan their time. Big mistake. If you look at people's calendars, the vast majority of people have nothing planned. Maybe they have a to-do list, and to-do lists, it turns out, are one of the worst things that you can do for your personal productivity. That running your life on a to-do list rather than a schedule is very counterproductive. It turns out. This is another thing that I learned, that I was shocked to find, that it's actively harmful to run your life on a to-do list.
Oh God, I'm buggered.
I used to do this too. I was a to-do list devotee for years and years. We can talk about why to-do lists are so counterproductive. Rather than, here's the rule. Here's what I want you to remember. You can't call something a distraction unless you know what it distracted you from. Yep. You can't call something a distraction unless you know what it distracted you from. So we can't say, oh, I got distracted because of Twitter. I got distracted because of this or that or the other, unless we know what we plan to do with that time. Because if you don't plan what you're going to do with your time, you can't call something a distraction. Everything's a distraction unless you know what you want to do in advance. So that's about making time for traction. There's lots of different techniques we can talk about there. The third step is to hack back the external triggers. The external triggers, again, are these pings, dings, and rings in our outside environment that can lead us towards distractions. This is where we go systematically through email, news feeds, kids, right? How distracting can kids be in our environment? If we're trying to get work done, if we're working from home, it can be very, very distracting. Our colleagues, all of these things can lead us towards distraction. So we can hack back all those external triggers. And then finally, the fourth step is to prevent distraction with pacts. A pact is a pre-commitment. It's a promise we make in advance that we use as a firewall, as a last line of defense against distraction. So it's really about using these 4 techniques in concert. There's no one magic bullet, but when we do one thing from each of these 4 steps, this is how we become indistractable.
Holy shit, that's amazing. Really, really powerful stuff. So, okay, let's dive into some of the weeds there. Of like the visualization one, that was gold. I would just to give examples, because I always trying to, take this into my life and see, well, how can I use it? When I was doing ultra marathons, and I would get to a point where, just can't, you've got this big, massive battle going on in your head of like, I just want to quit. I want to quit. And it gets louder and louder and harder and harder. I'm stuffed. I'm exhausted. On the other side, you got this, what I call the lion, who's telling you can, and you've got this, and keep going. I would make sort of visualizations in beforehand and during the event as if someone's life depended on it. Would you quit? And
oh, this is good. So good. It's funny. It's so funny you say that, because I actually, many times when people tell me, that they can't do something, I can't get up in the morning. I'm not a morning person, right? I asked them, I said, what if your life depended on it? What if your kid's life depended on it, right? Or let's tone it down. Let's say you had a meeting with your favorite celebrity, okay, at 7 a.m. sharp, Oprah Winfrey or Michael Jordan, I don't know, somebody super famous you've always wanted to meet, said, I will have breakfast with you, but it will only be at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Are you going to wake up? Of course you're going to wake up. You're totally capable of doing it. So, and this is, again, one of these self-limiting beliefs that many people carry around with them, which really limits what they are able to do. It's interesting that you kind of made that same scenario in your head of like, what if my life depended on this, or someone else's life? Could I do it?
Yeah. And that's something, my listeners know my story with my mum. I brought my mum back from a massive aneurysm, so major brain damage, where at the age of 74, where the doctors were saying she would never, ever do anything again. And I was just like, I'm not listening to anybody who tells me I can't. I'm going to find people who tell me I can, and to tell me the next step or one step in the process. And I will only listen to those, and I'll focus on those. And I just don't ever believe in limiting my beliefs, because in the medical world, what I see happening, and is a bugbear of mine, we're so busy covering our asses and also not giving false hope that we take away all hope. And the doctor would say to you, look, there's no hope. She's got massive brain damage. In our case, put her in an institution. She's never going to do anything. It took me, 2.5 years to get her back to full health. I was sitting with her having a coffee yesterday, actually, and the doctor who had written her off in the hospital happened to see her just walking around on her own outside, going to get a coffee and coming back to the thing. And she was just like, oh my God, your mother's doing amazingly well. And inside I was going, yeah, no thanks to you. Where she told me, this is a year into her rehabilitation, your mother is below the level of a worse dementia patient, and she would, there's no reason for us to have her in the program. She's too thick, basically. Wow. And my mother is sitting next to me. At that point, she'd already been a year in rehabilitation. My mum was starting to come back. She was starting to think, and she was doing some things. She was so intimidated by the system and the people in that system doing these tests on her and so on, that they didn't even realize she could speak. And I turned around to my mum and I said, how does that make you feel, Mum? And she said, I was feeling really empowered until I heard that. Now I'm very depressed because I feel really disempowered. And I went, yeah, thanks. And we don't need your system anymore. See you later. We'll go and do it ourselves. And we did. And I wrote a book about it. So I'm very big on not putting these limitations. And, that's just one example of many, but limitations on ourselves. But you've just pointed out to me in this 20 minutes we've been talking already I've got some preconceived ideas of limitations that I didn't even think I had. Because I'm very much I can do things, and definitely a head through the wall person, but which can, maybe too much adrenaline. I don't know.
Exactly. No, I love so much of what you're saying. I mean, one of my life mantras is consistency over intensity. And I think, that's how we change. We underestimate what we can do in a year. We overestimate, what we can do in a year. We underestimate what we can do in 5. I think with Bill Gates said something I'm paraphrasing here, but it's so true. Like just consistent action, consistent forward momentum. It took you 2 years or longer with your mother. The healthcare industry is all about intensity. Here's a pill. Now you're fixed.
Yes.
Right? And then when that doesn't work, they quit.
Thank you.
Whereas consistency or the person who comes to the gym and says, oh, my New Year's resolution, I'm finally going to get into shape. And you see them for, 2 weeks before they quit. but they're sweating it out for 2 weeks. And of course that accomplishes nothing. It's about consistent action. So, when people ask me, how did you write 2 bestsellers? I didn't sit down and say, oh, I'm going to write a book right now. No, I sat down and committed the time, just 2 hours a day of writing. That's all it takes. If you sit down for 2 hours a day of writing, or even less, in the course of a year, you have a book. You know how this works, right? But you have to do it consistently, a little bit every day. And so that's why learning to manage distraction is so important, because many people, they run their life on to-do lists and they have all these life goals they want to check off. And if those goals aren't checked off, then they think they're failures. That's not how we should measure ourselves. We should measure ourselves not by what we finish, because we don't always control how long these things take, right? You didn't know how long it would take for your mother to recover, or how long it would take you to write a book. What you can control, what you do know, is how much time you will put forth towards that effort. And so that's why it's so important to just measure ourselves by the input, not the output, but the input of the 2 things we can control always, which is our time and our attention.
Wow, that just blows my mind, because I think the biggest thing to take away from that mum's story, and sorry to harp on about that, but I work with a lot of people who are coming back from, these sorts of journeys, strokes and brain damage, concussions and dementia and God knows what. And the biggest, the factor that decides that person's success mostly, and I can tell pretty much at the beginning if I'm going to have success with that person, is, are they willing to put the hard yards in day out when they see nothing for it?
So true.
Yeah, like right behind me is the hyperbaric chamber, which was a core piece of mum's rehabilitation. But I took, she's had hundreds of sessions in there. People come and they want to use the hyperbaric chamber and they expect that within 3 sessions they are going to be fixed. And it's like, that does not work. It doesn't work like that. And as an athlete, that doesn't work. Biology does not work like that. And there is no magic pill for the cancer you've got or the whatever. It's not a one thing. It's very much a multi-pronged approach. And it's a very much every day. Like I often get, insulted or told off by people for being so relentless, which is the title of my book, with my mum. She has to train every single day, birthdays, Christmas, doesn't matter what it is. I don't care. She's training every single day unless she's sick. And the reason for that is, if I let up a little bit, we will slide backwards. And I don't want to let that happen. And I know that as an athlete, you have to keep this continuing. If I want to get to 100 and be able to do the splits or do some yoga or stand on my head, which I think is absolutely doable, I have to do those things every day to get there, or pretty much every day,
Isn't it amazing though how we hate that?
Yeah, we do. Like we don't want that.
People want, and this is where you get all these charlatans selling, special juices or pills or magic potions or crystals or whatever, this stuff that you can always tell something that you should be skeptical about in terms of how quickly it will work. Yes. Right? Yeah. If somebody wants to sell you something that's going to get you quick results, watch out.
Yeah.
Pretty rare,
Exactly.
We want that instant relief. We want that instant solution. And look, for the things that are worth having in life, they take time. You want great relationships with the people you love in your life, you have to invest consistent action. You have to be fully present with them. You want to excel at your job, you have to show up and do the hard work that other people don't want to do. You want to be an incredible athlete, you got to put in the reps, right? You have to do the work, and it takes years. I've been working on, you mentioned standing on your head. I've been working on handstands now for 2 years.
I'm still not there either.
No, it takes a long time. But it's, I wish it was as simple as just getting a pill. But there is something to be said about knowing what to do. I think that's, but the good news is that for, maybe in past generations, maybe our grandparents could say, well, I don't know what to do, right? Like I didn't have access to a book to tell me what to do. Today, what's our excuse? It's all out there on the internet, right? Just Google it and it'll tell you how to do what you're essentially
we are so blessed. Like, honestly, if, with my mum's situation, I wouldn't have been able to heal it because I wouldn't have had access to the greatest minds on the planet. And I do now. And doctors haven't really worked that one out, that we have that access. They tend to Dr. Google. On that internet are the best professors, the best clinical studies, the best everything is available to us now. And we're so lucky that we have access to people like you through this podcast. I mean, what are the chances of me being able to talk to a Stanford, teacher at Stanford and a best-selling author What are the chances when I'm sitting little in New Plymouth in New Zealand?
Which I mean, it's really a mirror. And here we are talking with each other over these video phones that if you had told me we could do when we were children, right, I would have said impossible, right? Yeah. That's like science fiction. And here it is. Of course, the downside is that sometimes when we live in a world with so many great things, with so many ways to spend our time, this can lead to distraction, which is why if you are looking for distraction you will find, right? Yes. And I think this is why the world is bifurcating into people who say, who allow themselves to be distracted, who allow their time and attention to be controlled by others. Because look, if you don't plan your time, somebody's going to plan it for you. There are plenty of people out there with a vested interest to capture your time and attention. That's how they make money, right? That's how the newspapers and the cable TV networks and of course, social media all make money the same way. They turn your attention into revenue. They monetize your eyeballs. And there's nothing wrong with that business model. We just have to be very aware that that's what's going on and make sure that we use these products as opposed to them using us.
And to understand that our attention is the money, that, where we're putting our eyes is exactly where the money is going in every aspect, and that the world is changing so rapidly. What do you see as like, we have an ancient DNA. We're basically still cave men and women from our DNA perspective. And we're being thrust into even, the converging technologies, the AI, the VR, all the robotics, the stuff that's coming in the next 5 years is astronomical. And how is our ancient DNA going to cope with this? Like this change, this rapid change that we have to be so flexible. How do you see it? I mean, and it's very easy because you're an extremely intelligent man. You're going to be able to adapt. How is it for the ones who aren't?
You should talk to my wife about that extremely intelligent part. She might have a different opinion on that one. But I'm pretty optimistic. And let me tell you why. That, one of the things that makes us such an amazing species is that we are infinitely adaptable. That this is why the human race is the only species on Earth that can live in any climate. We can even, sustain ourselves in outer space, right? Because we adapt. Now, does that mean that there aren't going to be unfortunate consequences? Of course. Paul Virilio said, when you invent the ship, you invent the shipwreck. So of course there will be shipwrecks along the way, so to speak, right? There will be unforeseen negative consequences to every type of technology. But by and large, I'm very optimistic that just because something is new or, let's say unnatural, doesn't mean we don't adapt. Humans are very, very adaptable. There's lots of things that we do that are unnatural. Look, we toilet train, right? That's not natural, right? Our ancestors a few thousand years ago went wherever they wanted to, right? And we learned over time that, hey, now we have indoor plumbing, we hold it. And if we can do that with our bodily functions, I think we can get control over Facebook too. I'm pretty sure we can do it. So again, back to if we try. If it's so much easier to say, okay, just give me the instant solution, right? That just tell me that Facebook is controlling my brain, therefore I have no personal responsibility and agency, therefore I don't have to do anything. That's the quick fix. Yeah. As opposed to saying, look, guess what? The price of progress, the price of living in an age where you have so many amazing things. I mean, the world, as much as the media tells us that the world is a terrible place, right? You always hear the media, that's their business model, right? They don't tell you about all the good things that happen every day. They tell you about all the terrible things. Why? Because they know that's what will get people watching. But if you look at every metric that you could possibly track, the world is getting better. Right? If you don't believe me, there's a wonderful book called Factfulness by Hans Rosling, which I recommend everybody reads. It's a required reading about all these various metrics about how we're getting better and better. Yeah. And of course, it doesn't mean there's not problems. Of course there are problems, but we have to be realistic about the scale of these problems and optimistic that we can fix these. Because when we become pessimistic, when we believe, then we are going to hell in a handbasket, we don't do anything about it. What's going to lead us out of our problems is not running away from these problems, not throwing up our hands and giving up, but rather engaging with these problems, right? Doing something about it, just like you did with your mother, not believing the people who say nothing can be done, but rather taking things into our own hands and doing everything we possibly can.
Yeah. And then, like on that the facts that we are improving. Like, you know, coal mines are going to be a thing of the past very soon. Our battery technology and our solar is going to be like, we're going to have so much power that we're going to be able to deal with a lot of the major issues that we've got happening. Then we're going to, you know, like the technology is just mind-blowing. It blows my mind every day what's coming and how we can actually heal the planet. I mean, there's things like, getting off topic, but these drones that are going around now and firing seedlings into the ground, like hundreds of thousands per day, and reforesting places that have been deforested. You know, like we're coming up with some pretty cool solutions. I mean, bugs that eat plastic and, you know, goodness knows.
And those stories don't get anywhere
they don't.
Nearly as much coverage, right? You know, you only hear about the bad stuff, but there are actually, there's some amazing developments in the areas that we think are most problematic. You'd be surprised how things are in many ways going in the right direction.
And I agree with you totally that if we focus on the negative, then we're going to get the negative, and we're not going to change our own behavior, because you feel powerless. You know, that's why I do not watch the news. It's forbidden in my house because I don't want, if it's a big enough story, then someone who will tell me about it if I need to know. But I want to fill my brain with the positive, the exciting, the new, that sort of thing, you know. And I think
it's important to focus your attention on what you are able to do something about. So let's say, you know, if the environment is something you care passionately about, if public health is something you care passionately about, if education is something you care passionately about, the problem is we spread ourselves so thin, right? We spread ourselves so thin, caring about everybody else's problems and all the things that are going wrong in the world, that we don't do anything about the one thing we can do something about. So go deep on a topic, right? Don't spend your time worrying about people's problems thousands of miles away. What can you do in your local community to improve the world? Don't complain and moan about all the things that are happening thousands of miles away, because what's probably happening is you are escaping those internal triggers, right? You're using the news, you're using your complaints to escape having to do the things that you actually have agency over. Right.
Oh, you're speaking to my soul, man. That's just, I think that was a really good message for me personally, because I'm like, changing my mission in life a little bit at the moment, and going into the, you know, more into the public health, and to changing things in the medical world for obvious reasons. And it is about, but what do I focus on first? And that's a question that I need to spend time on pondering on. And this is what we all need to be doing. It's not about me, but it's about diving deep into the one area that really interests you and that you think you can make a difference in this world. And then, you know, I think all of us, or most of us, who are responsible citizens, want to get to the end of our lives and think, I did something positive in this world. I left this world a better place because I existed. You know, and having a positive impact. And it doesn't, you know, we're not all going to be Elon Musk and God knows whatever, you know, but we can still have a massive impact in our little community, in our bigger community, in our country, and internationally. And you know what is exciting me at the moment is, you know, thinking big and learning from people like Peter Diamandis. I don't know if you know him, but thinking that maybe, you know, because I'm, again, limiting beliefs. I live in New Zealand. I can't therefore do this. I'm, you know, who am I? I got no resources to, you know, I can't affect the big things. And then you start reading about some of the stories in his books and his works, and you start thinking, well, maybe I can. If some guy in Africa who didn't even have 2 cents to rub together can do something, maybe I can. What the hell am I moaning about?
Absolutely.
You know,
maybe where I can give my 2 cents for how to think through this. And I think this might, you know, this has helped me in my life as well. When I think about, okay, where is my human capital best allocated? There's a framework that we use along 2 axes. So one is to ask yourself, where can I have the biggest impact? Okay, so put that on the X axis. Where can I have the biggest impact? And then the Y axis is ease. Where is it easiest to make an impact? Okay, so what you're going to do is then take a bunch of different ideas. Okay, I can go spend my time working on environmental issues or education issues or public health or whatever the case might be. Put those things on that chart, right? Put little dots for each of those ideas. How much of an impact could I have, and how easy would it be for me to do something about it, right? So even if we say, oh my goodness, it's so terrible what's happening with the Syrian refugees, how easy is it to actually have an impact? I can't do very much, right? I don't know how to help those people right now. So that's going to be very low on the ease scale. But could I make a big difference in my local community? Could I spend my time helping my family members? That would be an easy thing that I could do that could have an impact. And then, of course, do the things that are in that upper right-hand quadrant.
Wow. And finding what your passion and your curiosity is for, and marrying these two together, where your expertise is. So yeah.
Because that's where you'll be able to sustain the effort. Again, back to this mantra that I have of consistency over intensity. If you're super passionate about something, oh my gosh, we need to do something about it, but you only do it once, right? That doesn't move the ball forward. That doesn't actually help the world very much. If you just, get super passionate about it and quit. You want to do something that you can chip away at a little bit every day to make that situation better. That's where we find, the Peter Diamandis crowd of people who actually make huge impact is they work on it a little bit consistently over a long period of time.
Consistency over intensity is my new mantra. I love that. Now let's pivot a little bit, if I may, and talk about your first book, Hooked. We were looking at psychology, because a lot of the people that listen to this are entrepreneurs like me. They're trying to understand how to best serve their communities and how to create engagement in their communities, whether they're online or offline communities. What are some of the tools that we can grab from that book and maybe apply in our lives so that we create, and it's something we struggle with constantly is how do you, when you don't have a huge resource, you don't have thousands of people working for you and you can make anything happen. How do you actually get people really engaged in the workforce sense and in the entrepreneurial sense?
Yeah, so to build a habit-forming product, there's a few preconditions. One is that the behavior has to occur with sufficient frequency. So only products that are used within a week's time or less have an opportunity to even form a habit. It's very, very difficult. There are some exceptions, but it's very difficult to form a consumer habit unless that behavior occurs within a week's time or less. So that's one precondition. And then what we want to do is to make sure we have what's called the hooked model. The hooked model is kind of the basis of my first book, where we have these 4 steps. I'm partial to 4-step models, as you can tell. And in this 4-step model, the first step here again starts with these internal triggers by understanding what is the uncomfortable emotional state that my product will attach to. So if we're trying to build a healthy habit, let's say it's fitness or education or saving money, whatever the case might be, what's that internal trigger, that emotional itch that every time the user feels that itch, they utilize our product or service. So thinking to yourself, what's that uncomfortable emotion that whenever they feel, my product is the solution to that discomfort. That's a very, very important first step. The next step is to make the action as easy as possible to do. We know that the easier something is to do, the more likely people are to do it. So we think about what, all the points of friction, as we call them, that would prevent somebody from doing something. Is it time, money, physical effort, cognitive cycles? So the more thinking someone has to do about a behavior, the harder it is to understand, the less likely they are to do a behavior. So we think about all the ways we can reduce the friction. The next step, the third step, is called the variable reward phase. And this is where we find that habit-forming products always have some element of mystery, some bit of uncertainty, some kind of variability. So when you think about, what makes it fun to watch spectator sports? Why do we all become obsessed with, some ball bouncing around a court or a pitch? It's variability. It's uncertainty. Why do people like watching movies or reading books? It's about, getting to the end. It's about what's going to happen. How are things going to resolve themselves? Slot machines, right? Why do people enjoy gambling? It's because there's uncertainty, there's variability.
Absolutely.
Scrolling social media. It's all about variable rewards. And so habit-forming products always have to utilize one of 3 types of variable rewards. We call these rewards of the tribe, hunt, and self. And so there has to be at least one of those three types of variable rewards. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, is that a habit-forming product gets users to invest in that experience. So unlike things that are made of atoms, as opposed to made out of bits, when you think about your car, your furniture, your clothing, all these things lose value with wear and tear. They depreciate. Habit-forming products do the opposite. And this is really what makes them so revolutionary. They appreciate in value, meaning they get better and better the more we interact with them because of what I call stored value. So the more you interact with Pinterest or Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, their algorithms are learning about your preferences and making the product better for you, more engaging for you the next time around. So you can do this with your business as well. It doesn't have to be a super technological algorithm. It's something as simple as when I go get my hair cut, my barber remembers my name and my daughter's name and what I do for a living. And every time I see them, they remember how I like my haircut. They have invested I have invested in that relationship by divulging some of my personal data, right? My information about myself that builds that loyalty with that business, right? With that barber. And let me tell you, I used to have a different barber who didn't remember a thing about me. I stopped going to him.
Wow.
Right.
So it's not just in the online world.
No, it can be in any business. And so many businesses, we think, oh, here's the product, take it, goodbye. Right.
Yeah. And I think, can I just ask you there, because how do you do this from a business perspective? It's a bit of a conundrum when you don't have the manpower. So like I'll take, for example, running coaching, which we, train hundreds of athletes. And one of the problems is we have is the accountability factor and the community engagement factor. Because we're only a small team, we can't check in every day with our athletes personally. And everybody wants to work with me, which is also a bottleneck. How do we get around that with technology? I mean, that's a freaking big question. If you answer that, you solve my problems. But what are some of the things I could be thinking about in that direction so that you create a better platform for people and a more accountability without having a huge team to be on the phones and, actually engaging one-on-one?
Well, I'll give you a few ideas. I call these the 3 C's. The 3 C's are content, community, and conversation. So content is, when we find that you can add this variable reward of finding interesting content. So for example, if you, and these I'm just tossing out, I'm brainstorming here with you. I don't know what's going to work for your community, but just some ideas.
Wow.
If you curated interesting articles, for example, right, that's very scalable. You could say, hey, here are Lisa's, top articles for the week. You must read. And so you can put that out on a platform, maybe it's an app you build or a website or even an email newsletter. You don't need any technical skill to do that. It's, it's very, very easy. That would be a way to build engagement through content. And of course it's variable, right? There's that variable reward of, well, what's in the content? What did Lisa recommend this week? What do these articles say? What am I missing if I don't check out these articles? Exactly. The podcast. Exactly. That's that's number one. C, the first C is content creation. Very, very scalable. Another way is community. So empowering people to communicate with each other, right? Yes. So where you have, that becomes very scalable when you have a community of like-minded people, where this is what we call the each one teach one model. So if you can have people who learn from you, right? They learn from Lisa, and then they can help other people utilize your practices. Now you're scaling what you know by empowering others to teach others. And we know this actually has a very profound impact. If you look at religion, every major religion has this aspect of proselytizing, right? Why do they do that? Why does every religion have that? It's not just about growing the flock. It's also about reinforcing the believer's identity. Because when I teach someone else how to do something, I am teaching myself. I'm reinforcing my own beliefs and my own self-image as someone who uses this practice. So that would be community. And then the third one is conversation. So this is where you engage people one-on-one, as opposed to a community of, many to many. This is where it's either one to many or one to one. So if you can empower some way of using technology to disseminate your wisdom in some way, or that's not, sometimes it's not as scalable if you're having these one-to-one conversations with folks. That's the problem. But those are the 3 potential ways to do it: content, community, and conversation.
Okay, that's some gold for me to go to dig around and think about, because it is. And when you aren't super technical, and we use a whole lot of platforms and apps and God knows what, but it's still creating that real hookedness, to use the title of your book, that eludes us. And that's something that we need to keep working on. And I think a lot of businesses that are struggling with that, because that's a little bit of a new way of thinking. It's not I'm buying a loaf of bread and thanks, here's your money, see you later, and gone, which used to be the sort of the old model of doing things. And now in this information technology world, it's keeping people coming back, and you have to keep. And it's, as an entrepreneur who's wearing 100 hats, because you don't have a massive team behind you, you've only got a few people, you run out of resources pretty quickly. to actually engage,
The good news is that it's getting easier and easier, right? It's getting easier. There are all kinds of no-code solutions these days where anybody who's even not technical can utilize. There's all kinds of platforms that you can just plug in and start utilizing. So it's definitely getting a lot easier than it used to be to be a creator in this space.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Nir, I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show, for sharing your incredible wisdom with us. I've got lots to think about. I'm going to listen to this 3 or 4 times and read your books. So where can they find you and your books and all the work that you do?
Sure. Thank you so much. So my website is nirandfar.com, but Nir is spelled like my first name. So that's Nir. And far.com, nirandfar.com. And my books are, the first book is called Hooked, How to Build Habit-Forming Products. And the second book is called Indistractable, How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life.
Wonderful. And do you have a newsletter list that people can also get on? Yep.
So, yeah, absolutely. I have a weekly newsletter where I curate articles that I like, kind of like we were talking about earlier.
Ah, there you go.
And then I publish an article every week as well.
Oh, wow. So actually directly from you. That's wonderful and super excited. We'll put all those links down in the show notes for people. nirandfar.com. Go and check it out. Thanks very much, Nir, for your time today. It's been awesome.
Oh, my pleasure, Lisa. Thank you.